Hare Krishna. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. All glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And all glories to the assembled devotees of the Prabhupada Disciples Association worldwide. We want to thank everyone who attends on a regular basis our classes for their devotional service to our Guru, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, because we are simply carrying out his instructions to hear on a regular basis from his original unadulterated books the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna, as inculcated in the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, and also the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So this is part of the formula, success formula, for those who are serious about spiritual life and serious about leaving this body at the time of death. And by Krishna's mercy and the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Śrīla Prabhupāda, hopefully going back to home, back to Godhead, due to their adherence to these regulated principles of Krishna consciousness. Because yoga means discipline. Without discipline, then human society deteriorates down to animal life. Like cats and dogs. It's all that people become. The modern world, everyone is eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's their main business. But the real business of the Vaishnava is to take the transcendental medicine from the literatures that Śrīla Prabhupada has given us through oral reception, and in this way cure the disease of Maya. So we're going to move forward here. We're reading from Prabhupada's pastimes. By the way, I wanted to mention today we will not be having the Istagosti class or extended class for our group. So today's session will be completed at 11:30. This has been a request due to the change of the clocks here in the Eastern Zone. So they technically you lose an hour. So we're giving everybody a chance to catch up with their Sunday duties after the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class. So we'll go to we're at Tuesday, August 7th. Or is it September 7th? Yeah, September 7th. Sorry, Venkat. Yeah, September 7th. We're moving on now. Prabhupada, remember, Prabhupada arrives in New York City officially on September 19th. That's when he gets off the boat there. He arrived in America on September 18th in Boston. And then they moved up the coast to New York, and then he got off the boat there and walked down the plank and then turned left to right and just went on his way with no money in his pocket, or $7 or $8, which especially today is no money. So here it is, Tuesday the 7th. Now he's already suffered the severe heart attack, so this was quite traumatic for him. And it was by Krishna's mercy that he did survive. We showed on the diary how Prabhupada didn't write anything for so many days because he had no strength. So now he's becoming more active and fit again on the boat, and they're going to start soon to cross the ocean. So today, Bhara-ha-Dwadashi observed the best atmosphere condition on the Mediterranean Sea. All along, we have seen the Algerian coast. Wednesday, September 8th. Today at about 8 o'clock in the morning and near about Gibraltar, we had a first experience of fog impediment. It was all dark around the ship, and she stopped moving completely. She was whistling now, and then to protect herself from other unseen ships being collided with. We started at about 11 again. So he's clocking all of the activities that he's experiencing on the boat. 8-9, that's September 8th, 1965. At about 2:30 p.m., we passed over Gibraltar port, ending at Tarita Lighthouse. The other side is Spanish Morocco. Excuse me. There is regular ferry steamer service. The gap is wide, about 7 miles across. We are in the Atlantic. Thursday, the 9th of September, 1965. Till 4 o'clock afternoon, we have crossed over the Atlantic Ocean for 24 hours. The whole day was clear and almost smooth. I'm taking my food regularly and got some strength to struggle. There is slight lurching of the ship, and I'm feeling slight headache also. But I'm struggling, and the nectarian of life is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, the source of all my vitality. This is a very interesting comment that we should adhere to, especially in the final years of life, to focus in on the study of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Friday the 10th. Today the ship is plying very smoothly. I feel better today, but I'm feeling separation of Sri Vrindavan. And my Lord Sri Govinda Gopinath Radha Damodar. The only solace is Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, in which I am tasting the nectar of Lord Chaitanya's Leela. I have left Bharata Bhumi just to execute the order of Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in pursuance of Lord Chaitanya's order. I have no qualification, but I've taken up the risk just to carry out the order of His Divine Grace. I depend fully on their mercy, so far away from Vrindavan. So how deep was his commitment, Prabhus? How deep was his commitment to start the Hare Krishna movement in New York City and expand it all over the world? Little did he know what was ahead of him. Saturday the 11th. Today the ship ran on very smoothly. The sky was clear and there was sunshine all the day. At about 7:30 in the morning, we passed on the Azores Group Islands under the Portugal Republic. There was again rehearsal for lifeboat saving at 4:30 p.m. There was a rehearsal of the fire brigades also. At night, there was profuse moonlight on the ocean and considerable lurching also, but did not affect me very much as it used to do in the Arabian Sea. The Atlantic Ocean is more kind to me than all other seas so far we have crossed over. It is all Lord Krishna's grace. September 12th, that's the Sunday. So he's only 7 days left before he arrives in New York City. SR Day. Today there's a great deal of lurching, although the sky is clear. Mrs. Pandya, although a little lady but very intelligent and learned also, she has foretold about my future, thanks to her prediction. All blessings of Lord Krishna for her. The crisis which I supposed to have crossed is also mentioned by her. If I had crossed the crisis, then that is God will of Lord Krishna. My friend and philosopher. In the evening, there's too much lurching and I feel a bit of seasickness. I could not take my food properly. A little sweets were accepted with some relish. The lurching continued to midnight. So here Prabhupada is into his journey, and all you Prabhus can see here Prabhupada's deep, deep commitment to the mission of Lord Chaitanya and to the service of Lord Krishna by his words. This is a revelation as opposed to a class or a reading. This is Prabhupada's deepest thoughts. Personally, we all fly our own planes individually, and Prabhupada was flying above the clouds in the world of Radha and Krishna. So we'll carry on now with the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava. Please chant along. And then the class by His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, who snowed in California. Hare Krishna. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodā-nandana Dāsa. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Amaspa Paramahansa Parivrajaga-Ācārya Sattva Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda ki Jai. Canto Kori Vaishnava ki Jai. Ācārya Śrī Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Śrīvāsādi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Bhog Gopinath Sam Khand Radha Khand Giri Godan ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Navadvip Dham ki Jai. Ganga Mai की जाए, जमुना माई की जाए, द्वारका धाम की जाए, स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जाए और ग्लोरी श्री जैसमिल और ग्लोरी श्री जैसमिल। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Prabhupada ki jai.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam. Narayanam Namaskrityam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Tato Jayam Mudirayet. One should utter the means of conquest, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1. To the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2. To the Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3. To the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4. To Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text number 17. Shrinvatam Svakata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtanaha Ridyantastoya Badrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, does cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge for hearing his messages, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text 18. Nashta prayeshu vabhadrishu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Translation. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, comes into being an irrevocable fact.
The purport for text 17.
Now, which text are you reading on canto number 2? On chapter number 2? Text number
Text
6?
17?
Text 7?
17?
Vasudevi
No,
Bhagavati Bhakti.
17. I thought it was 17. Is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. You're reading the invocations?
Okay.
What text are you on?
Venkat, which text are you reading today? Canto 1,
Today's
chapter 2, text
Today's text is verse 6 from chapter 2.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Save pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radokshaje ahe tukiya pratyata yenatma samprasidati sa that pumsam for the mankind vai certainly paro sublime dharmo occupation yato by which bhakti devotional service adokshaje unto the transcendence ahetuki causeless apratyata unbroken yaya by which atma self samprasidati completely satisfied. Translation by His Divine Grace Śrīla Prabhupāda. The most perfect occupation for all humankind is that which is conducive to the attainment of devotional service of transcendent Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and undeterred so that the same shall completely satisfy the self. Purport by Śrīla Prabhupada. In this statement of Śrīla Sutta Goswami's speech, answer of the first question by the sage of Naimisharanya is given. The question by the sages was to summarize the whole range of revealed scriptures and present the most essential part of them so that the fallen people or the people in general may take it up very easily. The Vedas prescribe two different types of occupations by the human being. The one is called the pravritti marg, or the path of sense enjoyment, and the other is called the nivritti marg, or the path of renunciation. The path of enjoyment is inferior quality of occupation, but the path of sacrifice for the supreme cause is superior quality of occupation. Material existence of the living being is a diseased condition of actual life. Actual life is spiritual existence or Brahma Bhuta existence, where life is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. Material existence is non-eternal, illusory, is full of miseries. There is no happiness at all, but false attempt to get rid of the miseries is called wrongly as happiness. Therefore, the path of progressive material enjoyment, which is temporary, miserable, and illusory, is inferior quality of occupation. But devotional service of the Supreme Lord, which leads one to eternal, blissful, and all-cognizant life, is called superior quality of occupation. The superior quality of occupation is sometimes obstructed by mixing up with inferior quality of occupation. For example, adoption of devotional service for some material gain is certainly an obstruction. Hold on. For example, adoption of devotional service for some material gain is certainly an obstruction to the progressive path of renunciation. Renunciation or abnegation for ultimate good is certainly an obstruction to the progressive path of renunciation. Renunciation or abnegation for ultimate good is certainly better occupation than enjoyment in the diseased condition of life, which aggravates the symptoms of disease and its duration. As such, devotional service of the Lord must be pure in quality. In other words, without the least desire for material enjoyment, by requiring the fruits of work or enjoying a sense of knowledge only, without any practical purpose. One should therefore accept the superior quality of occupation in the form of devotional service of the Lord without any tinge of unnecessary desire, fruitive action, and philosophical speculation, which alone can lead one to perpetual solace of the service. We have purposely denoted dharma as occupation because the root meaning of the word dharma is that which sustains one's existence. A living being's sustenance of existence is to coordinate his activities in terms of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna is a central pivot of living beings and is the all-attractive living being entity or eternal form amongst all other living beings or eternal forms. Each and every living being has his eternal form in the spiritual existence, and Krishna is the central attraction for all of them. Krishna is the complete whole, and everything else is his part and parcel. The relation is of one's service and the served. This relation of service and the served is transcendental. As such, relation is completely distinguished from our experience in the material existence. This relation of service and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. One can realize it with the progress of devotional service, and as such, everyone should engage himself in that transcendent loving service of the Lord, even in the present conditional state of material existence. That will gradually give one the clue to the actual life and please itself in complete satisfaction. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakayam Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaham Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataham Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances unto our spiritual master, Śrīla Prabhupāda. who has opened my eyes, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. So this is a very important text here, which Śrīla Prabhupāda used to often quote when he gave various lectures and presentations of Krishna consciousness. We see in this text, it is described, ahetuki apratiyata yayatma samprasidati. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and undeterred so that the same shall completely satisfy the self. Prabhupada explains in the purport how this is the answers by Sutta Goswami to the sage of Naimisharanya with regards to summarize the whole range of revealed scriptures and present the most essential part of them so that the fallen people or the people in general may take it up very easily. Now we see in the Vedas there are two different kinds of activities described, the pravritti marg and the nivritti marg, or one which is the path of sense enjoyment, and another one which is the path of renunciation. Prabhupada states, the path of enjoyment is inferior quality of occupation, but the path of sacrifice for the supreme cause is superior quality of occupation. Pravrittir isha bhutanam nivrittir tu mahafalam. In the Manu Samhita, it is described that the path of pravrittir, or the path of sense enjoyment, is the natural tendency of all living beings. But the path, nivrittir to mahafalam, the path of renunciation of sense enjoyment, gives one a greater result, mahafalam. So this is a very important point, because Prabhupada goes to this whole explanation of the difference between material life and spiritual life. We have seen in the Bhagavad Gita how Śrīla Prabhupada has often quoted this verse, Ramante yuginanante satyananda chedatmani iti rama padenasu param brahma abhidiyate. Our great yogis and great sages are constantly enjoying Ramante yoginanante satyananda chedatmani, the eternal life of blissful life, of bliss, knowledge, and renunciation. And this is the meaning of the word Rama. Rama means transcendental spiritual enjoyment. Ramante yoginanante satyananda chidatmani iti rama padedaso param brahma abhidiyate. So this is quite significant, because sometimes less intelligent persons misunderstand the path of bhakti as being inferior. But Śrīla Prabhupada explains in his purport, devotional service of the Supreme Lord, which leads one to eternal, blissful, and all-cognizant life, is called superior quality of occupation. We have often seen Śrīla Prabhupada quote the verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, explaining the meaning, or nectar of devotion, explaining the meaning of devotional service. Prabhupada is explaining that in the last, on page 135, that the devotional service of the Lord without any tinge of unnecessary desire, fruitive action, and philosophical speculation. This is the meaning of devotional service as a superior quality of occupation. This is very important because we see that there are many different types of devotional service. In the third canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, in the conversation between Lord Kapila Dev and Devahuti. There's a very detailed, lengthy explanation of the different types of devotional service according to the modes of material nature, namely the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance. And that devotional service, which is described as ahetuki apratiyata, this is the topmost level, which is causeless and which is unmotivated. This is a very important point, because we see in the actual practice of devotional service how the neophyte practitioner often gets misled by various tendencies, that the tendency for philosophical speculation and fruitive activities. Prabhupada is often quoted from the Narada Pancharatra, Sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam. That pure devotional service means that one has to be completely free from all designations. In the material world, the conditioned soul is attacked by various kinds of false designations, thinking that I am the material body, and this material body is mine, and I am the controller, and I'm the doer of all activities. In this way, various kinds of illusions come in. This is manifested in this world, people thinking, I am a man, I'm a woman, I'm white, I'm black, I am this, I am that, I'm American, Canadian, Polish, German, Russian. And then it goes on in the field of religion. I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Jew, I'm a Christian, I'm a Buddhist. These various kinds of designations are illusions. The real knowledge means I'm eternal spirit soul, Jiver Nitya, Krishna Das, that I'm an eternal servant of God, Krishna. And my only engagement is the service of Krishna. Bolo Krishna, Bhaja Krishna, Koro Krishna Shiksha, Aparada Shuddha Hoy, that this is the real position of the living entity. To engage in the service of Krishna, to worship Krishna, to follow Krishna's instruction. Aparada Shunya Hoy, avoiding all offenses, Laha Krishna Nam. One should take to the sacred divine name of Krishna. This is the meaning of devotional service as described by Bhaktivedanta Thakur, our previous Acharya. How is this done? First, one has to understand Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yu Vidadati Kama, that Krishna is the supreme eternal amongst all eternals. All living entities are eternal. Krishna is the supreme eternal. He is the one who maintains Eko Bahunam Yu Vidadati Kama. He is the one who maintains all living entities. All living entities come from Krishna. They are maintained by Krishna. And ultimately, at the end of their lives, when they are finished, their destination is given by Krishna, is provided by Krishna. So one has to understand his position and Krishna's position and engage in the service of Krishna. So the person has to understand who is Krishna. Prabhupada nicely describes in the last paragraph of the purport, Krishna is the central pivot of living being, and he is the all-attractive living entity or eternal form amongst all other beings or eternal forms. Each and every living being has his eternal form in the spiritual existence, and Krishna is the central attraction for all of them. Krishna is the complete whole, and everything else is his part and parcel. Everyone is familiar with that first mantra of Isha Upanishad, Ishavasya Upanishad. Purnam Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate. Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. That Krishna is the complete whole, and everything is emanating from him. So this is a very important point, because there are some classes of philosophers, of spiritual practitioners, who out of frustration declare that everything is void, everything is impersonal. And when you meditate and become liberated, then you will merge into the Brahman. This is Mayavad, or impersonalism. But devotional service, as described in this verse, is different. There is always a very sweet relationship between the servant and the master. We have often described and discussed how in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Das Kaviraj is describing Ekal Ishwar Krishna, Ar Sav Britya, that the Supreme Lord is Krishna and all living entities are his eternal servant. Now, in the material world, the tendency is to forget that point, is to forget that position, and to negate the suffering of the world, the suffering that one experiences, by engaging in some impersonal voidist idea. That is not the proper conclusion. One has to engage in proper service, because we see in the world that everyone is engaged in some service. Everyone is engaged, every living entity is engaged in some service. This is the natural tendency. This is the natural position of every living entity. So simply one has to engage in this service with loving devotion under the direction of the authorized Acharya, like Śrīla Prabhupāda. Prabhupada has come to the West to present Krishna consciousness, to practically demonstrate how to engage in devotional service, in bhakti. Bhakti is the real solution. Śrīla Prabhupada used to often quote his Guru Maharaj, His Divine Grace, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, who often said that the only need in the world, the only thing that is lacking, is Krishna consciousness. It's very simple. It's not complicated. The whole world is seeking some kind of solution to the problems of material existence. Just like here in Northern California, late last month, there was a consecutive snowfall for 11 days in a row. It created a lot of disturbances, a lot of rain, a lot of snowfall, a lot of problems. And now people got some relief for 1 or 2 days. And then now there's a wave of rain for another 10, 11 days in a row. Now there's flooding, there's problem. And along with the rain, there come high winds. I often mention that Indra and Vayu, Indra is the demigod in charge of the rains, and Vayu is the powerful demigod in charge of the wind, that they must be displeased by inflicting miseries upon the inhabitants of this particular region of the world. But people try to counteract it, just like in the summer, when it gets very hot, they say, oh, we must have some air conditioning or a fan to relieve the distress of too much heat. In the winter, there's so many different arrangements to try to counteract the cold. But in this material world, you can never fully counteract all the suffering. Why? Because that is the nature of the world. That is the nature of this material world. There is always some suffering. And foolish people think that the counteracting of the distresses, that this is some kind of happiness. No. The only happiness is to link the individual soul with the super soul in loving service to Krishna. Yenatma samprasidati. Only this will satisfy the self. Only this shall completely satisfy the self. That is why we see that great acharyas like Narottam Das Thakur have given the solution. Golokera Premadhana Harinama Samkirtana. This Harinam Samkirtan, this chanting of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That this is the solution. Why? Because this comes directly from the spiritual world, from the Goloka Vrindavana, through the chain of disciplic succession. Just yesterday, we had an Ishtagoshti after the discussion and the reading of how to become connected in spiritual life. One has to hear from a bona fide spiritual master, an authorized bona fide spiritual master. And if one does not get his mantra from a bona fide spiritual master, it will have no effect. Sampradaya vihinaye mantraste nishpalamataha. One problem we are being faced by many upstarts and deviated persons is now, so few years after the disappearance or departure of the Acharya Śrīla Prabhupāda in 1977, many of them are very busy manufacturing new methods of devotional service. Devotional service has to be done unmotivated, and one has to follow the standards, the rules and regulations, and the process given by the Acharya. A practitioner or a sadhaka cannot invent or manufacture his own way of following the Acharya. Prabhupada is often described in various conversations with his disciples how I did not manufacture anything. I just followed the instructions of my Guru Maharaj, of his Guru Maharaj. That's why he was successful. I saw Prabhupada in Calcutta in 1971. He was asked by a group of life members, why is it that you have gone to the West, to America and Europe, and so many persons have taken up this process of bhakti? What is it that you have done? Do you have some magic? Prabhupada said, no, I have no magic. I simply followed Bhagavad Gita as it is. Simply follow the instruction of Bhagavad Gita and the instruction of my Guru Maharaj. But now what we are seeing right now is many persons inventing new ways. We see different kind of car pujas, introduction of demigod pujas, introduction of concocted kirtans. What is all this? Prabhupada is given such a transcendental, blissful, sweet process. Why change it? Why amend it? Why deviate it? There's no need to deviate the process that Prabhupada is given. It is not very difficult. Just yesterday, I was listening to a recording of Śrīla Prabhupada chanting the Maha Mantra. And one guest, one neighbor came to the house and say, oh, that sounds very sweet. When was that? And I explained to this person that this was recorded in 1966 when Prabhupada came to America. Prabhupada went to New York in Gargamuni, arranged for some recordings. It was one of the first recordings of the chanting of Hare Krishna. It had this natural, very sweet song. Very sweet, very melodious, very powerful. We see in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, in the fourth canto, how Śrīla Prabhupada explains that the voice of a pure devotee is very powerful because it is in contact with these saffron mercy particles which are found at the lotus feet of the Lord. A person like Śrīla Prabhupada is very powerful. He's a Nitya Siddha, an eternally perfect liberated soul who has been sent by Lord Krishna himself from the spiritual world to preach Krishna consciousness. So whatever methods he is given, whatever processes he is given, the artik, the songs, the different tunes, the books, the entire process should not be changed. People should not deviate it from the actual process. Otherwise, it becomes complete sahaja, cheap. Prabhupada often quoted from his Guru Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, that when our men will become sahaja, they will become more dangerous, unquote. There's no need to change the process, just follow it. And if a person cannot follow the process properly, at least don't change it. You don't need to invent new mantras, new methods of offering the bhoga, new methods of doing kirtan, as melodious as it may sound. Prabhupada is given everything. Simply what we should do is follow the process. Mahajano yena gata sapanta. In the Mahabharata, it is described, dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam. Mahajano yena gata sapanta. That the real truth to understand what is dharma, what is religion, dharmasya tattva, nihitam guhayam it is hidden, it is very secret. How to find it, how to ascertain what is real dharma, what is real religion. One has to follow the path of the Mahajana, the great authorities in the line of disciplic succession. Just recently, I had one devotee who wanted to correspond with me, and then he started all kinds of arguments. Oh, Prabhupada says this, and Prabhupada says that, and this means this, and this means that. And you should answer my question and this question. I said, okay, why don't you read Prabhupada's books? All the answers are given there. Carefully read, carefully follow, carefully chant without offenses. Then all of these questions can be very nicely answered. It is not difficult. The process is not difficult. It only becomes difficult if somebody concocts and manufactures new interpretations. In one letter in the middle 1970s, Prabhupada told one devotee, the greatest danger to our movement will come when we invent new ways of worshiping the deity. And we are seeing this now. Now they are inventing new mantras. What is this new mantras they are inventing? Has Prabhupada given not enough instruction? He has given so many instructions in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, so many lectures, so many conversations. We have actually seen directly on morning walks with Prabhupada. Prabhupada chanted. He would often, not that every time during the walk, he would speak the whole time. Sometimes he would just chant. He would chant the Maha Mantra. He did not concoct any new mantras. It was simple. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. In the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Das Kaviraj has given so many places explaining the power of the Maha Mantra. Kali Yuga Yuga Dharma Namer Prachar, that in this Kali Yuga, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, this chanting of Hare Krishna, this is the method of religion. Pita Varna Chaitanya Avatar, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared to spread this Sankirtan movement, to bring this Maha Mantra. So all of us should take serious note of the mission of Prabhupada, mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and spread this movement everywhere. Hare Krishna. Vishwakarma Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for that wonderful explanation of our philosophy of Krishna consciousness, according to the teachings of our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, who came to train us how to develop our character. Because the character of a person represents the level of consciousness that they have. And people in the modern society, their characters are degraded. There's so much sinful activity going on. Consciousness is extremely low. And Prabhupada was trying to teach us how to become true human beings and how to use the human form of life effectively to rise up out of the state of illusion, of Maya that we're in. This state of a desire for material sense gratification. So here in this purport, the Vedas prescribe two different types of occupations by the human being. The one is called pravritti marga, or the path of sense enjoyment, and the other is called nirvritti marga, or the path of renunciation. Two paths. The path of enjoyment is inferior quality of occupation, and the path of sacrifice for the supreme cause is superior quality of occupation. Material existence of the living being is a diseased condition of life. So I can speak personally about that. I was a very diseased person in my young years before meeting Śrīla Prabhupāda. And it was by his grace that I've been able to at least develop a taste for the cure, how to get out of the disease condition. I want to refer back to text 10 of Canto 1, Chapter 10, Chapter 1, Text 10 in the first canto here. This is describing the conditioned state of the living entity in the Kali Yuga, which is where we are. We're Kali Yuga people. Kalo Shudra Sambhava. This means that people in the Kali Yuga are already, they're all born Sudra, low class. Translation: the public men in this iron age of quarrel are almost always meager in the duration of life. True. That's very true. I just saw a video. They're saying the average lifespan is 70 to 80 years for a man. So if you live to be 35, that's half your life. That's not a long time. So life is very short, and we have to use it intelligently. Oh, the member of learned society. They are not only so, but very lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, they are always disturbed. So this is the pravritti marga. The specific qualification of the devotees of the personality of Godhead is that they're always anxious for the improvement of the members of the public. As such, the sages of Naimisharanya did analyze the state of affairs of the people in this age of Kali. They found it by experience and foresight that the men in this age are of a shortened duration of life. Some people, they tell me, I'll keep reading this purport, but, oh, I'm going to live to be 130. Well, some people may. I have a few people that I've spoken to recently. They're convinced they're going to live to be 130 years of age. I go, well, good luck to you, even if you live to be 130. What's your body going to be like? This material body is a place of ignorance. It's a machine that's programmed to break down, and it can break down in millions of ways. So one is thinking, oh, I'll live on, but this is an illusion. The main thing is to live in Krishna consciousness and build our character every day. Duration of life is shortened not so much for want of sufficient food as it is on account of irregular habits. Regular habits and simple, innocent food can keep up the standard of health of any common man. Overeating, over sense gratification, artificial standard of living, and depending too much on others' mercy kill the very vitality of human energy, and thus they become shortened in the duration of life. So this is going on. Yes, the class started early. We're on Shamasundar. We're on daylight savings time. So it's the clock moved ahead an hour here. Moving forward here. Prabhupada is talking about the superior qualifications of the living entity. But devotional service of the Supreme Lord, leads one to eternal blissful life. We're going back to the purport in chapter 2 of Vinkat, today's verse. It is called, the superior quality of occupation is sometimes obstructed by mixing up with inferior quality of occupation. For example, adoption of devotional service for some material gain is certainly an obstruction to the progressive path of renunciation. Renunciation, or abnegation for ultimate good, is certainly better occupation and enjoyment in the disease condition of life, which aggravates the symptoms of disease and its duration. As such, devotional service of the Lord must be pure in quality, without the least desire for material enjoyment, by recurring the fruits of work or enjoying a sense of knowledge only without any practical purpose. Now, in this sense of renunciation, we saw Prabhupada's, there it is there. For example, adoption of devotional service for some material gain is certainly an obstruction to the progressive path of renunciation. Renunciation or abnegation for ultimate good is certainly a better occupation than enjoyment for the disease condition of life, which aggravates the symptoms of disease and its duration. So when Prabhupada came to Toronto, I mentioned this earlier a few weeks ago, but I see we have new people here. I wanted to comment on Prabhupada's disposition. We were on Gerrard Street, which was at that time, a place called Cabbage Town. So you can imagine Cabbage Town was not one of the more expensive parts of the city of Toronto. In fact, all of the derelicts were across the street in Allen Gardens, doing drugs, hard drugs, and staying up all night drinking. So our temple, Gerrard Street Temple, 187 Gerrard Street, was across the street. And around the corner was a house called, on Pembroke Street, was filled with low-class people, let's say, or poor people. Maybe not low-class, but not very much money. And so we wanted to arrange a hotel room for Prabhupada at the Royal York Hotel. And when Prabhupada found that out, he told us, no, I want to stay with the devotees, because it was just a short walk, come down the stairs in this bachelor apartment that he was going to stay in. walk around the corner and he could come right into the house. And we had converted the living room into a temple room. There's some nice pictures that you'll see on the social media of Prabhupada sitting on that Vyasasan. It's glorious. And we all sat in this crowded living room. It was mostly his disciples. At that time, there was a very small group of Indian people that were coming. Remember, this was 1974 or 75, before the transition, especially in Canada here, where there's been a huge influx of East Indian people. And now the temple has largely been Hinduized. So there's more of that type of approach to Krishna consciousness, much different. So Prabhupada was there, and we enjoyed his association intimately in that room. It was so amazing, Prabhus, to be in the room with your spiritual master and chant Hare Krishna and with the utmost enthusiasm and bliss, being in association with Prabhupada. Because Prabhupada set perfect example. When he came to Toronto the following year to visit us, it was so glorious that he took the time to travel there and be with us again. And it's interesting to note, now the Toronto Temple is a very expensive building. It's in a prestigious location in Toronto, just up from the Parliament buildings and south of what's called Upper Canada College in Forest Hill. Now that is an expensive area. So we moved from Gerrard Street, we moved into a very elite part of the city. And Prabhupada came humbly to the temple. He came with a small suitcase, a little plastic suitcase. You can see the pictures of him getting out of the car, coming up the staircase, totally renounced. He wasn't performing devotional service to get a big bank balance. No. Did he ask one question about the title of the building? Who owns the building? Did he ask one question about it to me? Because I was the president at the time. I was signed on the title, and the head of the corporation, ISKCON Toronto. Did he ask any questions about who owned the building? No. Prabhupada was totally renounced. He was not interested in that. He was only interested in encouraging us to use the building. He sent a letter to us saying, use the building as a center for preaching Krishna consciousness to the people of the city of Toronto. And he told me, put up a sign, a neon sign on the tower. There's a large tower there. These are the gates to the city of Toronto, where 30, 40,000 cars go by every day. So he said, put up 2 neon signs, one on the front, one on the back, Hare Krishna, and let everyone chant Hare Krishna. And by Krishna's grace, and this is another story for the future, how they tried to take the signs down after we put them up. But we mounted these signs, these lighted signs on the tower, on the front tower and on the back, which shine over the city of Toronto, the Hare Krishna mantra. So Prabhupada was only interested in one thing, spreading the Sankirtan movement with his facilities. And I wanted to, just before we move back to the other thing, I wanted to refer to what Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was discussing. I just have a letter here where Prabhupada is talking about kirtan. We were very much into the kirtan in the Toronto Yatra. Was to have big kirtans, ecstatic kirtans for hours at a time. And like I mentioned on my website, there are samples of those kirtans, so you can listen to them from 1974, 75. We had Prem Arnava come from Detroit. He was a wonderful chanter. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. He chanted so many beautiful mantras for us, and we were in ecstasy. But we had a system of chanting which was the standard that Prabhupada wanted us to follow. And Yaśodā-nandana brought it up here in the class about the changing of the mantras. So many different concocted mantras. And Prabhupada did not want that. He wanted us to follow a simple standard of kirtan with madanga and cartels. So I'll read this quote from Prabhupada, this letter. The letter is in regards to kirtan from Śrīla Prabhupāda. This was also the standard of Lord Chaitanya. We are using mridanga cartels. That is enough. My opinion is that it is not necessary for us to utilize these different musical talents for spreading Krishna consciousness. I would rather see people follow strictly the path of Lord Chaitanya and his Sankirtan devotees. We are using mridanga cartels. That is enough. We are not musicians. We are Krishna bhaktas. Therefore, we do not stress so much importance on these different musical talents. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God himself. Had he thought it would have been better to spread Krishna consciousness by another way, he would have done so. But no, simply with mridanga and cartel, traveling and chanting Hare Krishna, asking everyone to chant Hare Krishna, preaching simple Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam philosophy. This is the process. There is no need for us to try and add anything to this simple method. It will only be a distraction. Therefore, Prabhupada speaking here to all of us, and this message is something that we cannot interpret for our own personal motive. Therefore, I request you to follow the simple path of Lord Chaitanya and help me spread this wonderful mission all over the world. Keep yourself pure and fixed up in Krishna consciousness by following the basic principles that I have given. Chanting 16 rounds daily, following the 4 regulated principles, rising early, attending Mangalarti and classes, etc. This is of the utmost importance. This is a letter from Śrīla Prabhupāda to Jagadish Pandit on the 2nd of on February 12th, 1974. So much in this letter for us to meditate on and try to practice in our own daily life and build our character as responsible devotees. And that character will attract others. And in this way, we will be effective. We, as individuals living worldwide in this group, will be effective in drawing people to Krishna consciousness in our own specific areas. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, your further comments. We'll go for questions.
I wanted to read something from a book called Markini Bhagavad Dharma. When Śrīla Prabhupada arrived in USA, he arrived on the 18th of September, 1965 in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And this is from a poetry that Prabhupada wrote. There's a few excerpts. Ki karibe, ki kare bujabu kata baro se chai, kshudrayamidi nahi na koro kono shakti nahi. Prabhupada is expressing his feelings. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I'm very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Aniyacho jadi Prabhu amare nachate, nacho Prabhu nacho se mate. Kashtera putali jata nacho se mate. Oh Lord, I'm just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, make me dance. Oh Lord, make me dance as you like. Bhakti nai bedonai nabe kubdaro, Bhaktivedanta name be sartak koro. I have no devotion, nor do I have any knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I've been designated as Bhaktivedanta. And now, if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhaktivedanta. Signed, the most unfortunate, insignificant beggar, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, on the board of ship Jaladuta, Commonwealth Pier, Boston, Massachusetts, USA, dated 18th of September, 1965. This is from the Jaladuta diary called Markini Bhagavad Dharma. And the reason I am quoting this is because this shows the amazing humility of Śrīla Prabhupada. Śrīla Prabhupada was the most exalted devotee, most empowered devotee, and he's explaining how to become a pure devotee, how to think like a devotee. Very important. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I see that we have from Hawaii with us, Jonas Priya. And if there are any questions, by the way, feel free to put up your hand. We're ready to answer any questions. And we won't be going today into the Istagosti section of the program due to the time changes. That will be next Wednesday at the Chaitanya Charitamrita program. We will resume the Chaitanya Charitamrita or the Istagosi discussion. Jonas Priya, are you capable of speaking from Hawaii?
Hare Krishna, all glories to Śrīla Prabhupada.
Haribol. All glories to
Yes,
Prabhupada.
Prabhu, I'm so happy to be here. Just relishing all that nectar coming from the Vaishnavas. And Śrīla Prabhupada was so kind to us that he made this process so easy and so so anybody could participate. He says even a dog could participate, even a child could participate. So it's not, Prabhupada and Krishna are so kind. Most gurus, they talk and talk and talk and they don't say nothing. Prabhupada, every word he said, it was like a thunderbolt. Well, shatter your heart and make you think. So that was Prabhupada's mercy on us, and we're so very, very fortunate that we have Prabhupada's original books, and we have access to these books, and these books are the greatest contribution of Prabhupada to the planet, because he did mention that, yeah, he said the temples might fail, the society might fail, but my books will never fail. So we're so fortunate to have these books. And we're so fortunate to be able to hear these books. And Prabhupada said, if you read any one of these books, you could become Krishna conscious. And then he said, if you read one chapter of any of these books, you could become Krishna conscious. And then he said, if you read one phrase of one of my books, you could become Krishna conscious. And then he said, if you read one word of any of my books, you could become Krishna conscious. That's just the potency of Prabhupada's books. And I remember in the old days when we were doing travel in Sankirtan, and we Just put a Bhagavatam or a Bhagavad Gita, and that was the ditty, and we do the worship, and it was ecstatic. Hare Krishna.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Those beautiful comments recalling Śrīla Prabhupāda's words of the potency of the pure devotee. And you're very correct when you said that a lot of times people talk, and especially some of our godbrothers that are in so-called exalted positions within his organization, and they say nothing. There's a lot of words, but no potency. And I think that the one reason fundamentally is they somehow or other leave Prabhupada out of the dialogue. A lot of the speeches that I do study of our godbrothers, just to see, because words are revealing, they seem to somehow or other avoid mentioning Śrīla Prabhupada and his exalted position as the pure devotee, Acharya of in the disciplic succession from Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami. This is the main business of the disciples of Śrīla Prabhupada, to focus on Prabhupada, his life, his pastimes, and his mission, and serve that as their primary goal in life. And when you take Prabhupada out of the equation, then you become empty, flat. We have from Turkey, I see we have Balaram Ji, who joined us the other day, and you have your hand up. Prabhu, please, if comment or question. I hope your microphone works.
Yeah, me too. Hare Krishna.
It does.
Is this working?
Yes, it is. Very good. Excellent. Good microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
All glories to the semi devotees, and again, thank you so much for the wonderful association. A comment and then a question.
Yes, please.
I was based in Mayapur, more or less,
Oh.
from 95, and I really first I loved like kirtan. Kirtan was my thing for like 6-7 years, and then I went on the, what's it called, Navadvip Parikram.
Parikram.
And then I got a deeper taste there, and then that became my sort of jewel
Perfect.
to worship when I come to Mayapur, because it was like 7 days, nothing going on, no management, nothing, just absorption in japa, in kirtan, and pastimes. And then in 1996, we had Prabhupada's centennial celebration in Mayapur, well, the whole world.
Yes.
And they set up something new that I never experienced before, and it was a place and a time where they had Prabhupada disciples talk about Prabhupada, and I think they called it Prabhupada Qatar. And the first time I joined that, and then that just blew me away. It was like, my God, wow, this is better than Kirtan, it's better than Parikram. It's like, so from then on, it was like, all right, wherever there's Prabhupada mentioned more, I'm there. And wherever Prabhupada's mentioned less, I'm not attracted. So just to back up what you just said about that. Yeah, Prabhupada's, Prabhupada said this, Prabhupada said that, Prabhupada's pastimes, it's very, very attractive, super attractive. And the question I want to ask, actually, there's two. I'll quickly ask them, and then if you want, you can answer them or not answer them.
We will. Go ahead.
Can you please, I wrote them also, but can you please explain the spiritual science to understand the difference, of course, according to Prabhupada, always, our base is based on Prabhupada, the difference between adjusting things according to time, place, and circumstances, which is like fundamental to our preaching mission, and speculation and deviation, to understand this, so we just, for our own self and anywhere else, we can apply ourselves. Because, like, for example, we all know Prabhupada accepted Mataji's as his disciples, accepted Mataji's to do puja. What else? There was lots of adjustments that Prabhupada made that were not made by his guru. Devotees going out with material clothes instead of devotional clothes. Prabhupada sort of dealt seem a lot of times, sometimes with personal situations and adjustments. So when can we, or how can we arm ourselves with the correct knowledge to understand when is it deviation and when is it, let's say bona fide adjustment to the situation?
Okay, I'm going to give a quick answer, and I'll ask Yaśodā to respond after me. Prabhu, the time and circumstance adjustments were made by him. They were already made by him. Now, if you feel you're in a role where you can start to adjust things according to what you think you should do, that is not a very, for a disciple, that is not a very good idea. For example, currently, there are two people that are doing motivational speeches online. One is out of California, Vaisheshika, and the other is Shivaram in Hungary. And I happen to know both of them. They're my godbrothers. They're quite nice people. But they're coming on like Anthony Robbins. There's no mention of Krishna. There's no mention of Guru. There's no mention of philosophy. It's just words of motivational words of wisdom. Like, for example, get up early in the morning, concentrate on what you have to do, be focused, be happy all day, and at the end of the day, you'll feel happy. Things like that. Completely, if you went in front of Prabhupada with this type of speech, let me put it this way. I was afraid of saying anything in front of Śrīla Prabhupada for fear of getting yelled at. For example, when I drove Prabhupada from Toronto, I was driving the car. So we had to go to Buffalo. And it was like a 2.5 hour ride to go there and go across the border and get into so I had a chance to be with Prabhupada in the car with Brahmananda and Hari Sori. We did not speak one word in 2.5 hours. The last thing I was going to do was ask Prabhupada a question and look really stupid. You had to be very careful. So doing things like this that they're changing things according to time and circumstance, so-called to their perspective, is very dangerous. And here is the perfect example. When you see these motivational talks that they're projecting out online, and they have no reference to Krishna, to Prabhupada, or to the Hare Krishna mantra. It's called bridge preaching. It's just concoction. Yaśodā Prabhu. Maybe you could.
Yes, this is a very important point. This is a very important point because we've seen during Prabhupada's manifested presence on several occasions where Śrīla Prabhupada would send his secretary or personal servant sometime to stop the kirtan. If the kirtan was either too crazy or not appropriate, just like during Prabhupada's presence in the beginning in 1966-67, the kirtan would be basically Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Hare Krishna mantra. And then the kirtan would stop and the obeisances called the Premadvani would be recited. And gradually devotees, they started this Hari Bol once or twice and Jai Prabhupada once or twice. And Prabhupada allowed that. But what happened is that in Bengal, there's a lot of different kirtan people in Bengal. It's very natural for them. And many of them do kirtan very different than the way that Prabhupada introduced kirtan. So gradually what happened is many of the devotees, they would go into these Hari Bol kirtan for 8, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And Prabhupada did not like that. So we have seen that Prabhupada sent some of his personal servants to stop these kind of kirtans. Again, with regards to deity worship, Prabhupada wrote that letter to one devotee named Dhruvananda. where some devotees had asked Śrīla Prabhupada whether Lord Jagannath was wearing a flute. And Prabhupada chastised him, saying, why do you ask this kind of a question? And Prabhupada said, the greatest danger to our movement will be when devotees invent new ways of worshiping the deity. Prabhupada kept things very simple. The actual technical way of doing many things, such as deity worship, can be very elaborate in India. But Prabhupada kept things very simple, very easy for Westerners and devotees of our level to follow. The problem we have is many of our devotees, they learn a little Sanskrit, they learn a few little things, and then they start to concoct. Just like this idea of demigod pujas and car pujas. Prabhupada did not introduce these things. These things have been introduced after Prabhupada, after 1977. So the difference between time, place, and circumstances, that is something in the Shastra for the empowered Acharya. The devotees who are neophytes should not start thinking that they can invent anything, say anything, and do anything according to their mental speculation. That is very dangerous, very dangerous. Because we've seen this, we're seeing this right now. It is on. I mean, look at Christianity. It took them hundreds and hundreds of years before they started to depart from Christ's teachings. And now in our movement, it's only been 46 years since Prabhupada departed, and we're seeing that these things creeping in, these new ideas creeping in. Originally, kirtan in our movement was done always in front of the deities. The kirtan is meant for the satisfaction and the pleasure of the deities. The dancing was done according to Prabhupada's instructions. But now we see so many different things that are being introduced. Different mantras, different gypsy style dancing, different harmonium things. It's like, it's entirely different than the standard that Prabhupada has given. We have often discussed in these classes how Śrīla Prabhupada did not want his books to be constantly changed, to be constantly adulterated. But yet we see this phenomena taking place, that soon after Prabhupada departed, within a few years, they made 5,000 changes to the Bhagavad Gita. This is like the main text of the Krishna Consciousness movement. Prabhupada used to often say, books are the basis. They've completely mutilated that book. And they're obstinately still arguing every day how this is required for proper English, proper grammar, so many nonsense arguments. This should not be done. Very dangerous tendency. Very dangerous. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. And we're going to wind up the class today. It's 11:33 here in Eastern Canada. And the time just flies by when we sit together in these meetings of Krishna Consciousness. And I want to thank everybody sincerely from all of us here at the Prabhupada Disciples Association for joining us on a regular basis to get a diet of Prabhupada Katha and Krishna Consciousness in order to stabilize and encourage our advancement in spiritual life. We'll be back again on, as I mentioned earlier in the class, due to the time changes here, we're going to move forward with the kirtan and end the program today. And we'll be back to the Istagosti program on Wednesday. So that's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Chaitanya Charitamrita reading here from the association. And so you have to look at your clocks and adjust accordingly. And we'll keep going on the progressive march back home, back to Godhead together as a group. If you want to get in touch with any of us, please get a hold of Vincott. And he'll direct you if you can't get a hold of me or Yaśodā or any of us. Do your best to do that. Vinkat will send you out the information.
Prabhuji, Vinkat just wrote it's been cancelled or postponed.
Which? What's been postponed?
Our special class on the
No, that
your
was the,
15th, mine 16th.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's not. What we have is we were doing a special program on the 16th, and we're still working on that. So don't be confused with that. We're not canceled on the Wednesday, which is the 15th. Sorry about that.
Okay.
We're just postponing that planned special event on the Ritvik discussion. We're still in the process of writing the script for it. So it's quite exciting. And anybody who's interested in joining our media team, Prabhu Balaram, if you're interested, let us know. We'd love to have you on board with us. It's a different focus where we planning what to do to keep spreading the association's numbers globally and for book distribution and other programs on the internet. So if you want to be a part of that, you're more than welcome. I think your input would be just terrific. So Vinkat, Prabhu, sad to say, please play the kirtan, and we'll offer our obeisances after and carry on with the rest of our day. Hare Krishna, all glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare Bol.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu bhaivacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone, for attending the class. Thank you so much. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. All glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We'll see you on Wednesday. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.
Hare Bol.
Thank you.